Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Wednesday, October 23rd. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. Unfortunately, we picked up a loss with the Lakers minus 2.5, which was available at FanDuel at minus 110. I took it early because I knew the line would end up climbing to roughly 3.5 or 4, which is exactly what happened as the line finished at 3.5 or even 4 in some spots on the offshore market. So as a whole, we got the number we wanted. We knew the line would go up. We took it because we got the value on the extra point. However, it didn't matter as the Lakers just simply got outplayed in just the entire fourth quarter as a whole. In terms of my breakdown of the game itself, I thought the Lakers should dominate the boards with Davis and LeBron and Howard and JaVale McGee. And instead, they were tied with Clippers at the end of the game in rebounds, which is pretty much unacceptable. In terms of the offense, I mean, as a whole, I just think the Clippers, even without Paul George, just look like the best team in the entire league. I know that not many teams have played already, but I would not be surprised to see the Lakers struggle in the playoffs as they simply just don't have enough options behind LeBron and AD. I thought LeBron was terrible in the game, by the way, and I know that people want to talk about the highlights of the chase down block and the drawn charges and stuff like that. He stunk. He shot 17 of 19. He turned the ball over 5 times. He just wasn't good, no matter how you want to sugarcoat it. And the Lakers would have got blown out by 20 if Danny Green didn't hit 10 of his 14 shots. Either or, the Clippers were just the better overall team, and the Lakers came out flat despite 66% of the crowd being at home. So we'll look to bounce back with a victory in this one. Now, there are a decent amount of NBA games, and it is pretty difficult to determine how well these teams will do in the early part of this of the regular season. So, for that reason, we're actually going to be sticking to a player prop here, which might sound a little bit weird, but I will provide some justification on why I think this line is way too high and why there is value on it. And for that reason, we're going to be looking at Jeff Teague, who plays with Minnesota Timberwolves, and we will be taking his player prop under 12.5 points, which is available at minus 105 on FanDuel. Now, at first glance, you might be wondering why, out of all people, would I take Jeff Teague on a player prop under in points when the total has jumped from 227, give or take, to 229. And the main reason is based on some of the performances from Teague during the preseason, as well as some quotes he gave recently to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, in which he expressed his current injuries he's been dealing with. As a whole, just a quick breakdown. Teague during the preseason was absolutely terrible. He had surgery during the offseason for an ankle injury, and during the preseason, he only shot 30.3% from the floor. But the main reason why we like this is because of the fact that he will be seeing heavy minute restrictions in the early part of the season as a result. Teague, in some comments with various newspapers, he said specifically, first of all, Teague ended up going with a left ankle procedure, which kept him sidelined until the start of training camp. So he's had a hard time building up condition and keeping up with the fast-paced offense that the Timberwolves want to run. And a quote from Teague, quote, "I like to play shorter stints. I didn't play basketball all summer, so the thing for me is just to try to get the rust off and trying to build my endurance. I'm still a ways behind everybody else. Shorter stints are probably better for me." End quote. Now, for that, the reason why I bring it up is because Teague last season averaged 12.1 points per game in roughly 30 minutes of game time. I'd expect to see him play roughly 15 to 25 minutes in this game, so he should see less opportunities to score. Plus, based on the fact that he's dealing with an ankle injury with the rehab itself, he now has to guard Kyrie Irving in the first game of the regular season. So I think he will be a massive liability on both sides of the floor. I think he will get benched at some point. I think you should see Shabazz Napier, especially since he was on the Nets at one point, so we should know the entire playbook for the Nets. I think you should see him get a longer extending of minutes, trying to guard Kyrie, trying to play some defense. I think Teague as a whole, he only broke 12 points once in the entire preseason, and each of his last 2 games, he's been absolutely terrible. And as I said before, he shot less than 31% from the floor in the preseason. I think Teague will just go with the flow. I think he'll try to push the pace, but I definitely know he's not at 100%. Teague even said in particular, he said he didn't play basketball, whatever. I feel okay. This is a quote. I feel okay. I don't think I'll ever be 100%, but I feel okay. That's not exactly a bet on quote for me when you're talking about betting on a player with him scoring a decent amount of points. He said straight up he's not 100%. He won't ever be. He's still currently dealing with an ankle issue that isn't keeping him from being at 100%. And he's currently struggling to find a shot. So I think 12.5 is a little bit too high. Is Kyrie Irving a great defender? No. But Jeff Teague has built his entire game off his explosiveness, and I don't think he's really ever been a true knockdown shooter. So now that his explosiveness is kind of questionable, I question just how efficient he will be in this game, especially with some of the rim protectors in this game like Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan in the paint. I think that Teague won't be forced to shoot some jump shots, which he has struggled with for the entire preseason, and I think that the Nets will do a good job of bottling him up, as the Timberwolves will continue to try to ease him into the season as the rust starts to fade, if it ever does. So for that reason, I think this line's too high. I think this line should be at roughly, I'd say, 9.5, 10.5, based on the fact that he averaged 12.1 last season, and now he's dealing with a serious injury rehab. So for that reason, the play of the day will be on Jeff Teague under 12.5 points, which is available at minus 105 on FanDuel. Is it possible this play loses? Yes, but at the same point, I think based on the value alone, I have to take it, and that will be the play of the day. Now, in terms of some leans for the rest of the betting card, in terms of baseball, the Nationals ended up shocking these amount of people by winning game one. I still don't know why anybody would pitch to Soto with a base open with 2 outs, but Cole pitched to him in the 5th inning, and Soto roped the 2-run double off the wall. I don't really get it, but as a whole, in terms of this game, I have to lean to Houston. Washington used a decent amount of its bullpen yesterday. They used Corbin, they used Rainey, they used Hudson for a long period of time. They used Doolittle. So I question how many arms the Nationals have available in the bullpen. Strasburg, unless he goes 7 innings, I think he could have some issues. Houston, even though Cole did struggle for about a couple of innings, he did end up going 7 innings, so the bullpen did not see much work. Ozuna didn't pitch. James didn't pitch. They still have some of their key arms available. I think Verlander will bounce back. He did struggle in the first inning against the Yankees in his last start, but he was great since then. I think he'll pitch well. I think Strasburg will pitch well. I think you should see a very low-scoring game early on. I think the Astros could score against the Nationals bullpen late in the game, but I'd have to lean to the first 5 under, and I would lean to the Astros to win the game. But those are just my opinions. Not going to bet anything personally. Those are just my initial thoughts. Now, in terms of the NBA card, I will give out my leans on those right now. I would lean to Indiana minus 7.5 against Detroit. Indiana opened up at -5. They're currently up to -7.5, mostly because of the fact that Blake Griffin will not be playing in this game for the Pistons. Indiana is still without Oladipo, but they did pick up Malcolm Brogdon during the offseason. I think he definitely is a very underrated player, and I think Indiana will just dominate the pace of play. I think without Griffin, I think you should see Miles Turner and Sabonis dominate the rebounding edge, and I think you should see Indiana just play a very fundamentally sound game. Should be pretty low scoring. I think that the Pistons will struggle to even get 100 points, especially with Luke Kennard, who's also questionable for this game. But as a whole, I think the Pacers should win by double digits. Lean to Indiana in that one. Looking at the rest of the betting card, I have to lean to Chicago minus 3.5. I was going to give it out as a play of the day, but Chicago has a terrible track record playing in Charlotte, so that's why I didn't give it out. But based on the lineups itself, I have to lean to the Bulls. The starting lineups projections for both teams. The Bulls expected to be Satoransky, who's a decent point guard, not great, but you still have White coming off the bench. You have Zach LaVine, Otto Porter, Markkanen, and Wendell Carter. And for the Hornets, you have Terry Rozier, Dwayne Bacon, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, and Cody Zeller. I think that the Hornets will be one of the worst teams in the entire league. This team stinks. They lost Kemba, didn't replace him with anybody. This team's going to be really bad. And I think this team should win roughly 22 games, give or take. This team's going to be really bad. Chicago is underrated. They have some talent. Will they make the playoffs? No. But I definitely think they are much more talented than Charlotte. And I think that Chicago should come out and win this game. So I would lean to Chicago minus 3.5. Other than that, looking at the rest of the card, not really liking anything else. I would have to lean to Boston plus the 6. That's solely based on track record. Boston has owned Philly in recent years. And I think that even though Philly did take one of Boston's best pieces in Al Horford during the offseason and free agency, I'm still going to lean to Boston, as I still think that Brad Stevens is a significantly better coach than Brett Brown. And I think that Boston could win this game outright, as they have dominated this series in recent years. So lean to Boston there just solely based on track record. But those are my main leans. Hockey, no thoughts, as there are only 2 games. But the play of the day will be on a player prop. with Jeff Teague under 12.5 points, which is available on FanDuel at -105. Typically, I will be giving out more spreads and totals, but with this injury information, I just think this line is too high. So that is why I'm giving that out as play of the day. Other than that, though, that's going to do for this installment of Scott Selections here for Wednesday, October 23rd. And good luck to all of you in your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.